So if you run an agency and you're looking to scale in 2026, you need to be able to find leads, and I'm going to show you the best way to find leads for your business in order to generate new business going into 2026. There is loads out there on, you can do this and you can use instant data scraper, and there's a few other ways to generate leads. But this is going to be fundamentally the only thing you need to be doing in order to grow and scale your agency by finding the right quality leads. Now, I'm going to give you a full run through, start to finish, how I would set it up, how I would also then integrate it with Make, and how I would actually verify all of the emails that we're reaching out to before we speak to them in order to make sure that they're actually verified, they actually exist, and we're not going to bounce. Reason being, obviously, if we are having emails bounce, for example, instantly, that is going to turn off the campaign and we're never going to be able to get anywhere. So to start off with, you want to come over to Ampl AI. You then want to create an account. You can have a free plan. A free plan is plenty to begin with. And then you want to use the lead scraper, $1 for 1,000 emails with Apollo LinkedIn. If you go up to a paid plan, I think it's $35, obviously you can get more emails, but it might be worth you testing on the free plan to begin with. So then we want to jump into here. There are a couple of ways to build out your lead list and find out the criteria of people that you want to speak to before we do anything in terms of importing in the back end. Now, the two options are, you can open this link here, which is going to build you or bring you to like a UI sort of situation where you can run through here, you can type things in, and then at the bottom, you're going to fetch results, and it's going to give you a piece of JSON that you would then copy into here. But just because it's easier to do and it's already built out here, we're just going to add them directly in. So person name, I would recommend you leave. Job title, we're obviously going for founder, owner, co-founder, MD, CEO, COO, and director. If you're doing something a little bit more specific, you can come in here and add as many as you want, tweak, change. You don't have to go for all of these. If you need to speak to the marketing manager, for example, then you can go and speak to the marketing manager. Then employee size. This is always a good one. I always recommend doing this depending on how big of a company you want to reach out to. Typically, I don't really speak to anyone with under 11 employees just because for what I do in AI automation, they're not really going to probably be able to afford the service, nor do they actually probably need it. If you've got 200 employees, you bet there's some stuff that we can automate. If you have under, obviously, 10 employees, there's probably not too much going on. And then person location. With person location, that is obviously the human. You don't want to do anything with person location because that is incorrect. We'll come down to company location shortly. Industry and keywords. Again, you have a huge drop down. You can fly through as many of these as you want, but we've got financial services, law, real estate, insurance. You can come in here, remove some, add some. Whichever industry or ICP you are particularly targeting, you'll be able to play around within here. Then we come to company revenue. I don't tend to touch this. I normally go on company headcount is where I determine the revenue for myself. If you've got 50 employees, you can afford our service. That's how I like to structure it. But if you do want to come in here and look at funding, then that is a possible option. Then we have business model. Again, you can just pick whichever one you want. I tend to leave this. You don't need to do this anyway. And then company location. So at the moment, I'm working in the UAE, UK, United States, Canada, Australia. Those tend to be the ones that we target most often. Obviously, a lot of them are UK-speaking countries, which means we can send out marketing material, add content to those places, and get a great read rate. Then company website, I would leave. And then email status. I would also leave this alone because we're going to use Hunter to do the verification. And I found that the Ampl AI scraper is good. It's not incredible at validating emails, and I've had cases where I've pulled 10,000 emails out, or I thought I was pulling 10,000 emails out, and only 100 have come through because only 100 were technically verified. So I will again leave that. Then what you want to do is simply double check everything, make sure you're happy, and then run it. You can enter the number of leads you're going to want here. So for this instance, I'm just going to pull 100 through, and I've actually already, you can only do 1,000. Oh, maybe we'll do 1,000 then. But I actually did a run a little bit earlier on today for the school community, so that has already been run. Essentially, when you run it, you just want to leave it for a little while. Sometimes the more leads you pull, obviously the longer it takes. So just let it do its thing. And then once that's done, you'll be able to come over to here and you can have runs. You come into your runs, it'll be the top one. Just check the date, make sure all the lines up. Here we pulled 101. Now we've got a bunch of information that we can then use to reach out to people, emails, LinkedIn profiles, business name, location, you name it. We have everything. The problem is we now need to get it out of Ampl AI. You can go down two routes, one of which is to just export it, and then you can add that to a CSV. So if you wanted to add it into instantly, for example, you can literally pull it out and add it in. If you wanted to do anything else with this data, then you might want to add it to a make scenario. So I was going to build a scenario from scratch using the actor as well as the run that we've just done. So in instance, we're going to be going for Appify, and then we want to run an actor. The difference between run an actor and get data set items is running an actor is if you set this up to do it every couple of weeks. So every few weeks you want it to do 1,000 new leads. Every month you want it to do 30,000 leads. You can set it up with a trigger to do that. So I'm going to set it up just for the sake of this video anyway. You want to connect up your Appify account. Then we can have here lead scraper $1 for 1,000. And then we're going to have the input JSON. So what you want to do here is remove this for the time being, and you want to come back to the actual Appify run you've just done, come into input, and you want to copy this. This is essentially the input JSON. This is what we've given it. You can see here, Kingdom, United States, employees, the industry, the person. That's the JSON that you would then pop into here, and that's then done. Okay, maximum cost per run, leave it. You can do that. It's up to you. Essentially, we're just going to run through things before it runs again. So I'll just leave that how it is. Then again, you don't have to touch anything. That is all essentially good to go. You click save. Now, the next one that you will need to do is Appify, and that is get dataset items. What this is basically doing, the first one is running the actor. The second one is getting the data from the actor. So this is what we'd be running in the first instance, but what we actually need to get is obviously all of the data that's come out of here. So you can either, if you're going to do this automatically, you will want to make sure that the dataset ID here matches the dataset ID here. That means that's automatically going to, every time this runs, put the dataset ID from there into here, and then you'll pull all that information out. In this instance, we're not going to do that because we've already just run it. And if you've just run it, you don't want to waste your money. You don't want to waste the leads that you've just put. So if you come over to the same output, log, input, you want to come over to storage, highlight the dataset ID, come back here, paste that in. Happy days. Leave everything there. Limit, I would put this stupidly high because if you are running, let's say you do 5,000 leads. If you've only got 1,000 in there, you're only going to let 1,000 come through. If you only have 100, only 100 will come through. So it's not like you're going to pull 1,000 every single time. Once that's done, again, you click save. Now what I want to do is give this a little test run. So we're going to need to, we've already copied that, but just again, run this module only because it's hard coded in. And there we go. So now we have 101 leads. These have all come through. If you look through here, what have we got? We have first name, last name, full name, position, blah, 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 blah. Cool. So technically, I'm going to unlink that for the minute, move that over there. Technically, what you could do actually is set that up to run at, days of the week. You could have it run every Monday at 1:44 and do 1,000 leads. You could have it run every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 10 a.m. and do 100. Typically, I'd say do a big bulk and leave them. If you don't want to do any of that, you can just do the dataset ID. You wouldn't even need this this module here. Anyway, so we're going to go from get a dataset ID. We've hard coded that in. If you do just run the Appify scraper and then want to put it into here, you will need to change this every single time. But it's pretty self-explanatory. From that point onwards, we obviously want to send it into Hunter. This is where we're going to verify and validate the email. As I said at the start, we don't want to be sending emails to people who are not valid, not verified. It's not going to make sense. It's very quickly going to get your emails to go to spam. Your accounts are going to get blocked, and you're going to have to buy a whole bunch of new emails if that's what you're doing. So yeah, it's definitely worth investing in a verifier. So we click here, verify an email. We're going to create a connection. Then you want to come over to Hunter. Down the bottom left, you will have API. API keys, you just want to give that a copy, bring that back over to here and simply paste that in. That will be plenty done. Then you've got that, and now email. What we want to check here, if it ever does that, which it can sometimes do, the email won't come through. So the best options is to unlink it, maybe link it again. No, nothing. Let's save it, give it a refresh, and hopefully that data will come back in. Okay, fine. In that case, we'll just run it from straight up. Let's unlink it. We'll run it once. We'll pull that data in. Let's connect it up. And that email does not want to come through unless... okay. There we go. Bundle 1 is actually not even a lead. Okay, fine. That's good to know. There we go. Email, date, done. That's now pulled in. So now we can save that. Save anyway. Save these settings. What that's then going to do is if we run this module, for example, if I put a real email in, let's put mine in, that'll come back and say, okay, good. That's the green light where you will have status is valid. So what we can do now is add another one. Maybe we'll add it to a Google Sheets. Add row. What we can do here is add a email yes filter. So condition if valid, if status equal to valid. Make sure you have spelt it exactly. Even if it's a capital letter or not a capital letter in this instance, don't put the capital letter in. So that will now only let real leads come through. So if I was then going to go into here and run this with a non-real email, for example, let's put just a couple of R's in there. If you run that, that's going to come back and say invalid, which basically means it's not a valid email and it will just stop. You will then kill that. What I'm going to do quickly is build out a Google Sheets, so I might as well build the flow out from start to finish and you can see it go into a Google Sheets. Okay, what we've done here is now we've just built a quick YouTube test Amplify data sheet. First name, last name, email, valid. You can obviously put that in if you want to, but we have actually just verified that email anyway, so there's no need, but it is just in case you want to keep the data and basically flag it as yes or no, in which case if you were to do that, you would come here and you would add a fork in the road basically. So you would add a router, you'd add another one. We might as well do it, shall we? Let's build that out. So you can check if an email is valid or not. We'll come out of there, copy that. Save. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to give a filter. So email yes, which means condition status is equal to, and then it was valid. Remember, you need to keep it the exact same. You can then add another one in here, but there's no real reason. We're just going to actually add a name, which will say email no, just so we can keep track of all the filters. Then we're going to clone this module. We're going to put that in there instead. We're going to delete that. And we're actually going to set the filter up again. Setup filter. Oh, there we go. And then we're going to add no. That's fine. We'll leave that. We'll save anyway, and then auto align. Cool. So now what we need to do is connect these Google modules up to the sheet that we've just built. So I'm just going to run in here and show you how to do that. You'll need to connect up to your current Google Sheets. You'll need to select a path, which is fine, My Drive, and then you want to find the actual file. So we're going to come into here and we're going to have YouTube test Amplify data. Then we're going to do sheet name, which is sheet 1. And then we have first name, last name, email, valid, email, URL, biz. You can obviously add as many of these as you want. You will get a lot more of these fields come back when running this actual module. And I'm actually going to copy that, paste that, and do that instead because that one's already set up, and we will leave it. Okie dokie. Right, good. We're making progress. What you probably noticed again is that for some reason we're not getting the data come through into here. So we're going to run this again. The module is not set up. Okay, fine. That is fine. There we go. We're going to run this again. What have we got? Oh yeah. Okay. Email. So what we now need to do is with the first one that we've got set up, remember this email here has to have a value. Now the reason being is if I open this, bundle 1 doesn't have an email, which means essentially there's nothing to add. So we want to add a filter to say if there is an email, it has to have a value for it to then go through. So we save that again. Let's run this, and then that's going to come straight through. Perfect. Now at least we've forced the data through. We're going to get a huge, massive error. But if we now come into here and I go to first name, we can then actually match. Actually, I've realized that is incorrect. I keep forgetting that we can't see the first data. So this would have been the valid one. So you want to hard code in yes. Then we've got the LinkedIn URL, which we will have LinkedIn URL. And then we can just add the business name in here. Where are we? Organization website, organization description, state, country, email, organization name. Cool, so that's that one set up. So that means now if an email is valid, it's going to come up here and we're going to pull all of these details in. Again, I'm actually going to clone that because it's so much easier to just do it again. And then we're going to delete that one. And then we can actually leave that as it is. What are we doing here? Oh. There we go. Okay, fine. Filter, I'm just going to leave that again. Email, no. And then what you want to do, the only thing you want to change in the no column is add these back in again. First name, last name, email, valid. So it's not going to be valid. Then you've got LinkedIn URL, which was here. And then we had organization name. So from start to finish, what have we now built out? We now have an Ampl AI scraper that will either run automatically with this one, or it will run on its own when you manually trigger it. We're going to set up a filter so that if there is no email, it's not going to go through, and that you have to have emails for it to follow through. Then we're going into a Hunter.io validation. We basically want to make sure that the email is valid. Then what we're going to do is add them both to a Google Sheets file, but one's going to be valid, the other one isn't. And I'm going to run 10 test data to let them all come through here. So to run through 10, definitely not going to do all of them. We'll just pop 10 in there, click save. Actually, let's just do 5. Don't need to do 10. Add 5 into there, click save. Everything's golden. Run once. You can see one, no. There we go. There we go. Oh, that's interesting. So out of all of those, none of them were valid. I do not believe that. Invalid. Invalid. Valid. Right, so we did a bundle 4 was valid. Why did that come back and say no? Oh, I didn't save it. Bang. A little bit of debugging. 4 went through no. 1 went through there, but for some reason didn't appear in the sheet. Let's test that again, shall we? Where did that go? So there we go. All emails come through. That was all valid. That's come through. Let's run it again. Invalid, invalid, valid. There we go. So now we've got all these ones that didn't come through, and then we have all of the leads that did come through. And that is essentially how to find a way to analyze and scan and verify thousands of emails for next to nothing. As I said, this scraper, $1,000, $1 for 1,000 leads, and you can do 30,000 at a time. You can imagine how many you can run through to seriously scale this up. You could do this once a month, which is actually what we do. We will run this once a month. We might spend $50 on leads, scrape an absolute boatload of them, run them through something very simple, something like this, and we'll add them into a Google Sheets. And then from that Google Sheets file, we'll connect them up to where that goes. So that might be into other Ampl AI scrapers. We might run it through Perplexity. We might look to add it into an Instantly account, any LinkedIn automations that we do. But it's always nice to have the leads in a Google Sheets, and then you can do whatever you want with them. I hope you've enjoyed the video. That is just one of the many ways that we scale agencies through things like lead gen, client acquisition. If you want to find out more about what we do, there's a link below to the school community. And if you want to see more free game like this, drop a subscribe.